You know that kind of person. They walk into a room and your attention goes straight to them, not because they have beautiful eyes or because they're particularly beautiful or particularly loud, but because they carry themselves like someone who knows who they are, like the opinion of the people in the room doesn't quite reach them, like they exist on a frequency that most people around them simply don't have access to. And there you are wondering, what do they have that I don't? Psychologists have a name for that. And once you understand what it really is, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. Here's the premise. Confidence isn't something you perform. It's not something you play at. In most cases, the people who seem the most sure of themselves are the ones who stop trying to seem anything at all. They don't pretend. They simply are. Research in social psychology shows that individuals who display what researchers call unconditional self-worth, a sense of value that doesn't depend on success, approval, or outcome, are consistently perceived as more magnetic, more grounded, and more trustworthy than those who overplay confidence. The difference isn't visible, but it's felt immediately by everyone in the room. The first sign is that they don't change depending on who's watching. At home, at work, with complete strangers, and even with people they want to impress, they remain the same person. Same energy, same aura, same humor, same opinions. It sounds simple when you say it like that, but it's extraordinarily rare. Most people, without even realizing it, are constantly adjusting, shrinking here, expanding there, softening an opinion, amplifying a laugh. Psychologists call this high self-monitoring behavior, and studies show that people who constantly self-monitor are perceived as less trustworthy over time, and it's felt instantly because something in us detects the performance. We just can't name it. Just before we continue, my name is Jenna, and we just launched this channel for people passionate about psychology and human behavior. Just like you, the goal is to understand the hidden mechanisms behind people, emotions, and social interactions. If you want to help us keep going and improve the videos, think about subscribing. It's free, and it makes a huge difference for us. Okay, let's continue. The second sign is that they can receive a compliment without dodging it, and criticism without crumbling under its weight. Most people do one of two things when complimented. Either they reject it completely, or they become visibly hungry for more, and when criticized, they collapse, or they fight back immediately. These people do neither. They simply receive, they consider, they sort through it, they decide what's useful and what isn't. Psychologists call this emotional non-reactivity, and it's one of the clearest signs of a deeply stable self-concept. Because when you know who you are, other people's opinions and judgments are just information, not facts. And it's a freedom that very few people ever know. The freedom of not needing the world to confirm at every moment that you have value. The third sign is that they don't need to be right to feel okay. When there's a disagreement, most people want to win, want to be validated. They absolutely need to make sure the other person understands. These people feel that too. They just don't obey it. Changing their mind for them is not a defeat. It's proof that they're growing. They can say, maybe you're right, and actually mean it without feeling like they've lost something. They can change their mind publicly in front of others without feeling humiliated. Psychologists call this intellectual security, the ability to hold your identity separately from your opinions, and it's magnetic because it's so rare, because most people are so busy defending their point of view that they never actually move forward. The fourth sign is that they don't let failure define them, not because they don't care about failing, but because somewhere along the way they developed what psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying, a growth mindset, the deep belief that who you are today does not determine who you will be tomorrow, that a mistake is a piece of data, a lesson to learn from, not a verdict. They know with complete clarity that failing doesn't make them incompetent people who won't reach their goals in the future. And this belief, this quiet inner refusal to let outcomes write their identity, makes them impossible to permanently discourage. You can knock them down, but the version of them that gets back up is always somehow slightly stronger than the one that fell. The fifth sign. Stay with this one for a moment. Everything described so far, the consistency, the serenity in difficult situations, the intellectual humility, the ability to bounce back, the perseverance, none of it comes from an easy life, free of challenges or hardship. Most people who carry themselves this way didn't start there. They got there by doing the inner work that most people avoid because it's uncomfortable, because it takes time and energy, because it requires looking at yourself in the mirror and being honest with yourself, because it asks you to stop outsourcing your sense of worth to things outside of you. This is not a personality trait. It's a habit practiced every single day, a daily, unglamorous, silent practice of choosing who you are no matter what's happening around you. The sixth sign is that they are completely comfortable doing things alone. Going to restaurants, going shopping, for example, not lonely, alone. There's a difference that most people feel but struggle to put into words. Loneliness is wanting connection and not having it. Being alone is being with yourself and finding that enough. These people recharge in solitude, in connection with themselves. They don't need constant stimulation, constant validation, constant noise to drown out the sound of their own thoughts. Psychologists call this high interoceptive awareness, the ability to stay with your inner experience without needing to escape it. And it shows because someone who is comfortable alone never gives off that subtle, desperate energy of someone who needs you to stay. And paradoxically, the people who are most comfortable in solitude are often the ones who create the deepest connections with others because they choose people. They don't collect them. The seventh sign is that they talk about with kindness, not excessively or in an exaggerated way, just with kindness. They don't tear people down in private to feel better in public. They don't bond through gossip, and they don't use someone else's failures as a stepping stone for their own ego. And this matters more than it seems, because research on what psychologists call spontaneous trait transference shows that the qualities you attribute to others, people unconsciously attribute back to you. When you speak badly about someone, the listener's brain associates those qualities with you. When you speak positively, the exact same thing happens. These people understand this perfectly, consciously or not, and their reputation stays intact without them ever having to do a single thing to protect it. The eighth sign is that they know clearly what they want and they don't apologize for it. They're not aggressive and they don't need to crush others to get what they want. But when you ask them a question, they answer it. When they have a preference, they express it. When something doesn't work for them, they say so. Calmly, without drama. Psychologists call this values clarity, a precise internal understanding of what matters to you and why. And it's disarming because most people pretend to be indifferent, pretend to have a casual attitude, hide their preferences to avoid judgment. Someone who simply, quietly knows what they want feels like an alien on this earth. In a world where everyone is trying to please everyone, someone who simply knows what they want is a breath of fresh air. You might be reading this and recognizing yourself. You've always owned who you are, even when others try to tell you otherwise. You never quite understood why other people seemed so shaken by things that didn't shake you. People have told you that you were intimidating, very private, or intense, when in reality, you were just decided. Or maybe you're watching this video feeling the distance between where you are and where these people seem to be. Like this inner stability was something you were born with or born without. Either way, I want to tell you something very important. This is not a fixed trait. It is a skill. Research on self-concept development, particularly the work of psychologist Roy Baumeister, shows that a strong, affirmed identity is not something innate. It's something that builds slowly through repeated choices, through small moments where you decide to be honest when it would have been so much easier to pretend, by giving yourself the choice to fail without making it something permanent, through the practice again and again of the uncomfortable act of needing a little less from the outside world. It doesn't happen all at once. It never does. It happens in the small, silent moments, the ones nobody sees, in a conversation where you say what you actually think, in a moment of the day where you let the silence sit without rushing to fill it, in an evening where you decide, for no particular reason and with no audience watching, to realize that you are enough, that you are the most important person in your own life. And that realization, it doesn't make a sound. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with confetti, but the day it truly settles in, something inside you reorganizes itself forever. That's where it starts, one choice at a time, one silent moment at a time.